Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
Good morning to you. Thank you for joining us on Morning Spring on Western Spring Television, where we bring it to you as it is. Femi Olanikweko is my name. It's another day, and we're happy to have you join us on Morning Spring on Western Spring Television, reaching you from Star Times Channel 190 on their DTT platform, as well on different digital media platforms, YouTube, Western Spring Television, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter. It's a full house again this morning.
Well, yes, a full house, and it's good to have you join us on the show this morning, Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. And don't forget that we're reaching you live from Osogbo, the capital of Osun State. My name is Emmanuel Ujadegele. So good to have you with us. I would have said, let me do a countdown today, but some interesting developments yesterday has put a pin in my countdown for now. I think the only one I can bring to you is a Valentine's Day countdown, which is about 5 days from now. So get ready to do your Valentine's. But then, welcome to the show.
All right, thank you very much for joining us this morning on Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. I am Temitope Ajijola Olwaola. Good morning.
Welcome. Good morning for joining us on Western Spring Television, where we discuss things that matters and that cut across Nigeria and Nigerians. Good morning and stay with us.
All right, so well, let's get started now. So I wonder why Emmanuel is not doing the countdown just for Valentine. I wonder what happened to you. Was there a major development that happened to you yesterday? Anything untoward, God forbid?
No.
So we can help your life, you know, at this stage.
No, you see, the situation of the country is dire.
Dire.
You know.
I know.
And I don't have pie in my house, for instance.
Do you have cash?
You could give me some cash.
I could help you in that regard. Do you feel?
I don't have a car. So
oh my goodness. I'm sorry. We'll look into that at the end of the day. I mean, your situation is pretty much the situation of every Nigerian, you know, at this moment. You laughed at me when I said I killed, so I don't know if I should laugh at you at your own situation now, but I'll just
feel free.
Let me use my church mind and just let it pass. But let's start with the papers this morning. Let's give you what's on the papers, and we'll start with the Punch newspapers, and it's still about the Naira notes, the new Naira notes. World Bank, IMF warn CBN, Supreme Court stop Friday deadline. Shortage of new notes has caused hardships, disrupted trade payment, IMF, and protests rock Abuja as Tinubu El Rufai hailed judgment. Malami asked court to dismiss suit.
Well, it's such a very interesting headline to come out from the Punch newspaper this morning. The warnings from the World Bank and the International Money Federation. Those two agencies have been at the forefront of, issuing warnings to the CBN concerning cash devaluation, currency devaluation, and some of the policies. And it's interesting to see that they've again come with the warnings. But then what caught my attention was the protest in Abuja yesterday. You begin to ask, what exactly do people want? You are complaining that you don't have access to the new cash. You only have a note, cash crunch, and all of that. There's a Supreme Court judgment halting it temporarily till about 15th before they reconvene, and people are protesting against that Supreme Court judgment.
So was the protest against the Supreme Court judgment?
It was.
Okay, so so many things to unpack in these, if you ask me. So it's the World Bank, the IMF. I'm never comfortable their intervention in our economy, judging by their history. Yes. But everybody seems to be on the right side of history here, except for Godwin Emefiele and President Buhari. This warning is good, stares us in the face of reality. This is actually what we need now. The Supreme Court is actually, that ruling was not a judgment, as we say, it's actually just a ruling and order. The substantive case will be dealt with in some few days' time. We'll leave the other argument as to if what the Supreme Court did was right, because monetary matters belong to the exclusive list. So there are people who are saying, are we saying the states really even have the local standing to have instituted this case in the first place? But that will be, dispensed with, because the AGF has also waded in and saying the Supreme Court should dismiss their suit. But more importantly, for those who are celebrating the court order, I feel I think it's weak. I don't see any difference it's going to make.
Yes.
And I see my reasons. You are saying that the deadline, which is tomorrow, should be extended, and that Nigerians should be allowed to continue to spend the old notes. But the question is, where are the old notes? 80% of the old notes have been mopped off for circulation
into CBN vault.
Yeah, into CBN vault. So CBN will not pump
Release
back
them.
the old notes. So I don't see
doesn't make
what's
much of a
different.
difference.
Yes, I don't see what difference this will make. What we need now is for the CBN to pump as much as possible new notes into the circulation. And there's something also that seems to have gone under the radar that Nigerians are not looking at. Part of why we had this crisis on our hands is because of the withdrawal limit policy that was introduced much earlier. That's actually what's complicated the crisis.
Yes.
You know, because
The
that's why.
20,000 naira per day
Yes,
and
so
all
that's
that.
why we have the problem. I went to my favorite pounded yam seller yesterday.
Oh,
after
that
a long
woman.
while, you know,
Does she start taking transfer now?
she refused.
Oh.
I think she tried it maybe earlier in the week, and she said all of the money I collected, I couldn't get it. So what's the essence? So he said, "I'm going to transfer," you know, and that was it. So she insisted, and we had to source for cash to pay.
You
So
would have been glad to see you, put on an apron to wash plates.
yeah, that would go for me. The ghosts of my fathers will not allow that to happen. But that's not about, you know,
I
that.
think one of the major reasons why the protest held in Abuja is reasonable is because they are trying to make sure in a way that there is no buying of votes at the end of the day, because I want to believe this whole drama or this whole thing is all about ending buying of vote and us getting a free and fair election.
So the question
So-
now is, what's the composition of the protesters in Abuja?
Well, for me, I think with the way things are now, for me personally, if Emefiele, like you call him, Emefiele baby, is actually going to comply with both sides, I think there should be an extension for like 10 days. And that way, you would be able to call vote buying. At the same time, there is already an extension. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? There's already an extension that way. And of course, 20th of this month, we still have, that's still like 4 days to election. So in that way, you'll be able to call vote buying and there'll be a free and fair election. And it will make sense. For me, it will make sense for them to take it to court again for the second time.
Well, so I
That's
mean,
not-
well, I feel the jury is still out as to if the policy will succeed in curbing vote buying. You know, earlier on the week, we talked about the fact that how I see, I do not see the CBN, you know, its role in curbing vote buying. The CBN is primarily a monetary policy and should not be involved. You know, if you want to fight vote buying, there are anti-graft agencies. The CBN dabbling into what is not its main fault is part of what has brought us here. You know, doing a Greek, doing what have you.
Well, I think CBN is a Nigerian body and of course head by a Nigerian. Just like you said yesterday. And I think for us, curbing this vote buying and us getting a free and fair election should be the primary work
joint
of-
responsibility.
Yes, it's a joint responsibility for all of us. So if CBN thinks with this policy they can actually make something work with this their new policy, then I think it's fine. It's not a problem for
All right. Okay. So, you know, because of our time, let's move on. Other headlines on the front page of the Punch newspaper. Wike lacks popular support to help Tinubu. That's according to Peter Side. You know that Governor Wike, you know, overtly or covertly, has thrown his weight behind the Tinubu. So Peter Side has been dragging Wike for some time now. You know, remember the comment he made last time, you know, about or you know the issues we have here. Okay, so just quickly before we take this break.
Yeah.
Okay, 195 naira per litre, and possible marketers are insisting 900 NNPCL stations to serve INEC during polls. That's Yakubu. I didn't offer to buy kidney, Ekweremadu tells court, and INEC appeals Oshun poll judgment, defense Adelike's victory. 805 million naira fraud, fleeing Senator Nwaboshi, nabbed, sent to prison. In Turkey, Syria, earthquake deaths toll, and now over 11,200. Let's take this short break. When we return, we'll continue with the papers.
Aminatu, the legendary Queen of Zazzau, is best known to historians as Queen Amina of Zaria, an old walled town and capital of the Hausa state of Zazzau. Amina was a great warrior and the first woman to rule the ancient kingdom of Zazzau. Her 34 years as queen witnessed an unprecedented expansion of Zazzau by conquests. Queen Amina of Zaria belongs to the class of Amazons by the might of her army and her strings of conquests. She opened Zaria to trans-border trade and was said to have initiated kola nut cultivation in the ancient kingdom. The Hausa Muslim figure was born in 1533 and died in 1610 at the age of 77 years. Folklores remember Aminatu, the Queen of Zazzau, as a brave, smart and talented leader, whose giant statue now adorns the National Arts Theatre in Lagos, Nigeria, while many educational institutions bear her name. Western Spring Television identifies Queen Amina as a watershed character in history.
Arrested, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. A fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Ever expounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission, even diffusion, vast and fast. Detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news as it is.
All right, thank you so much for sitting with us. So welcome back to the newspaper review. So Emmanuel, a number of stories on the front page of the Punch newspaper before and that break. 195 naira per litre, impossible. Marketers are insisting.
Well, I think that they also have their reasons, and if you listen to them, you might be tempted to reason with them, because remember that the ex-depot price has also been increased rather. And that means they have to factor in a whole lot of other things before they can reach their final prices. And come to think of all the issues also affecting them, the chair of the IPMAN in the southeast, I think last week, was saying that they've ordered, I think it was Monday, yes, they've ordered petrol and some products for over a month now, and they've not taken delivery of those products. So imagine how much their wage bill is. They have to pay their own workers. They have to also source for some other funds to carry out their day-to-day productions. And you might want to really reason with them for pegging the price, for saying that 195 naira per litre is not possible. It's just not economically viable for them.
But government is insisting that they need to pay. So they're saying they'll be paying and they'll be running at a loss. You know, yes. What exactly is wrong? I've interviewed the chairman of the Ibadan depot of IPMAN, managing Oyo and Osun states, and he told me that NNPC has 21 depots across the country. None. Not a single one is functioning.
So you can imagine. So
the NNPC has to make use of private tank farms. And so when NNPC, because NNPC is the sole importer of petrol into this country, brings in petrol, and then because your own depots are not working, you need to partner with private depots, some of these major oil marketers, and then some of them sell to their own retail outlets at the regular approved price. But when a third party comes, they inflate. That's why we're experiencing this. So as long as much as you pressure IPMAN, if they are not getting the ex-depot price at the official rate, then
they have to increase their own prices too. You can't expect people to run at loss when they have the business aspect of their operations to take care of. They have the salaries to pay. You know, they have maintenance for their tankers to look into. Unfortunately, vehicle parts are on the rise. The prices, you know, so you see so
but
many
that should
issues.
leave us with having a uniform price. He just mentioned that to their own retail points, they sell at a normal price. Only to, you know, outsiders now that they're having to sell at, you know, inflated prices. So
well, yes, because Moman and Ipman are two different bodies. The people who operate Moman, major oil marketers, they
are the big
have
names, you know.
Yes, they have their own filling stations, and they have tanks. So the smaller ones under Ipman buy from them. So if you go to a petrol station owned by Moman, a Moman operator, for instance, you may find 185 there. 195 there. But if you go to that operated by Ipman, you may find 200, 250. Because Moman has its own tank and it's not trying to shift around. It's not buying from them. But Ipman is buying from them. So that's why you have the variation.
So, I mean, what happened a few weeks ago was such that the Moman, I mean, that was the allegation leveled by Ipman, and was a very serious one. If I was a functional society, something should have been done that time when the man made the allegation on radio. So he said, what these guys were doing, the moment, I mean, some of these are the depot owners, the tank farm owners, that NNPC uses their, you know, depots, is for those who have retail outlets, like the major marketers, they won't sell to the retail outlets. So that's why for a long time, the major marketers' retail outlets had no fuel, and they were not dispensing. But they were selling their own portion to private filling stations, the Ipman members, at an marked up, you know, so it was like the margins tripled, you know, and it was fast business for them. So if NNPC, if I'm NNPC, and I'm asking you guys to help me distribute fuel, I should also find a way of monitoring and insisting that you sell at the controlled price. So somebody's not doing his job somewhere.
Or someone is benefiting and is deliberately looking at the other side. You can't rule that out.
Okay, so but for the election, Yakubu, the chairman of INEC, is saying 900 NNPCL stations to serve INEC during polls. Would that be efficient?
Well, if you say 900, the question now is accessibility to those 900 stations, availability of petrol in those 900 stations. We also have to factor in human angle, people trying to, you know, do some sabotage and go around, circumvent the process. But then 900 should be enough across the country.
Yes, across the country.
We are also failing to look at the fact that INEC will be serving above the water or over the water polling units. We've not looked at the availability of the fuel. Thankfully, we don't do over the air, so there's no cry for aviation fuel. It's just motor fuel, petrol. Premium Motor Spirit. So let's look at the other sides, the riverine areas too. How will they cope there? What are the other things? So NNPCL, I think, should ensure that if those 900 stations will be working, then they are fully equipped, then they have all that they need.
All right. Okay, so I mean, that'll be all with the Punch newspaper because of our time.
Yeah, so move away quickly from the Punch newspaper, and this morning we birth at the Nation newspaper, where it says relief joy as Supreme Court holds CBN deadline on old Naira note. I think for the first time, the Nation is putting out the correct. I usually have issues with their headlines, you know, but now they're saying it as it is. They halted the CBN deadline, and Rivers seeks to join suit. World Bank IMF deadline ill-conceived. It was interesting to see Wike yesterday commending that the interlocutory, you know, injunction, and then saying that Rivers will apply to join the suit.
Oh, okay, so I mean, Emmanuel, sorry. I mean, you know, this thing comes to my mind. When I was in secondary school, maths wasn't my favorite subject. I was poor at it. Maybe that's what I'm talking.
I think we all are. We're all aware.
Okay, so some of us are really. But you know, I had this teacher when I was in the junior school who was trying to teach us. I mean, I'm just trying to look at what Wike is doing, because the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So, you know, how I got to know and how it stuck to my memory about, I don't know if it's a formula. I get confused about some of these things because it's not my thing. Plus times plus, or you know, minus times, you know, all of those ones. So the woman gave an illustration, said, the enemy of your enemy is your friend.
Yes, exactly. And that's why
the enemy of your friend you know,
He's also your friend.
you know, is your enemy.
Yeah.
The friend of your, you just gave that illustration. That was how I got to know. I mean, the class got to know. So whatever Wike is doing here, you know, judging by his previous antecedents, I mean, what he has done in the past, whatever favors him,
yes.
or favors anybody who is loyal to him, is
That's
his
what he
friend.
takes.
Wherever, you know, but
Yes.
it's just funny. So Wike is also trying to join the suit. Isn't that?
Yes,
Yes.
the Rivers
Rivers is going to join. But Rivers also is giving us a landmark constitutional judgment. Remember
Yes.
there was a case about taxis.
Taxes, yes, the FRS.
The FRS suit, really.
And the court ruling in favor of the state, asking state to collect their own
You know, I'm an
taxes.
advocate of restructuring by litigation.
Yes.
I believe that we can do a lot of restructuring if the political leaders are not willing, that the states, the subnationals can actually force the hand of the federal government to restructure. That's the constitution. There are many, you know, loopholes, leeways in the constitution that we can actually do. Yeah, some of these ones really will help us.
Yes.
You know.
Yes, away from that story because of our time, Tinubu, Rufai, Wike, OPS, others hail injunction. And below that story, you see a caption, the pro-people, the anti-people. The Tinubu, Rufai, then Emefiele,
and
Atiku.
Atiku.
Those are the two. Seems to be the four people at the front of the pro versus anti. And interestingly,
I don't know who define
who defines who the pro?
Perhaps, but for Emefiele, who is in the eye of the storm, I don't know how you classify others. Maybe people have different. Because even for instance, Peter Obi, who is supported massively by young people, so will be classified as anti-people.
Yes, because he has tilted towards the federal government's decisions, asking Nigerians to
Be patient.
be patient,
the
yes,
pain,
and all of
bear
that.
the
So
pain.
you just wonder who does the classification. But at the bottom strip, fleeing Senator Nwabushi arrested. Very good one.
Very.
The man went to the Supreme Court and asked them to reveal their own judgment, you know, and also the judgment of the Court of Appeal. And what the Supreme Court said to him was that you, as a lawmaker, you've not even subjected yourself to the course of the law. There's a subsisting judgment on you. You've been avoiding it. And all of a sudden, you want to seek an appeal, you know. Well, it's good to see that he's been arrested.
Really
7 years is what
he
he got.
stays arrested.
Oh, of course. Unfortunately for him, he has walked up a lot of political and judicial enemies, if you like to put it like that. So he should serve his 7 years. It's just funny that he's seeking re-election.
It seems he's been hiding for
Yes,
some time.
he has,
So
yeah.
he was caught in a hospital.
Yes.
Okay, so he's not going to spend. Is he seeking re-election?
Yes, he's seeking re-election.
Oh, incidentally, that's interesting.
He's going to probably win and maybe legislate.
Someone won from jail before.
Yes,
So that's on you. Nigeria, you have all manner of. But so quickly, because of our time, we need to run. Maybe we'll just run through the other headlines.
Yes,
and
I'll
other
take that.
papers not. But look at some of the ones that we've not touched. Okay, so there's going to be a Council of State meeting tomorrow.
Yes, tomorrow.
The Council of State comprises of the former heads of state, the former Chief Justices, the Senate President, the Speaker, and the 36th State Governor,
And the
as well as the Attorney General of the Federation. I do hope, as much as the Council is advisory in nature to the President, I do hope that they speak to themselves some hard truths, really there. So
Very
the
needed at
FG
this point.
yeah. Federal government filed objection against Supreme Court decision. That's on Daily Trust. That's the binary headline of the Daily Trust newspaper. And the FGO case, 117 billion naira for Oloibiri Museum. I would rather spend that money on some other things other than this museum for Oloibiri.
Something more productive.
Yeah, something more productive than the Oloibiri Museum. The cancer center, hospitals.
Yes, because our guest on Spring Delights who spoke with Tunde Idowu and Olayin Kali said that we don't really have much cancer centers in the state, in the country rather. And even
the rate has been
we need
high
investment in that area. Putting the money into cancer, put it into the Marjorie system, take out children from the street, and see how Nigeria turns around for good.
All right. So on the Guardian newspaper, Ajero takes over as NLC boss, pledges to reconnect Nigerians with labor movement. That's on page 4 of the Guardian newspaper. Perhaps, was this why NLC has been, in a state of limbo?
Yes, I think
the president went on leave.
When it transitions,
it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be.
It should not be. But I think we've not gotten to the point where institutions can run without their heads. A very good example is a particular House of Assembly in the Southwest, you know, when the speaker is not around, no matter how urgent the matter
case is
they
put
don't
on
sit.
hold.
They only wait for him to. But you have the deputy speaker who constitutionally can preside. You have the majority leader who is speaker extempore, who can also, you know, preside over the plenary. So we've not gotten to that place where institutions work without their head in court.
So that's why I do not favor all of the time when conversations come on and people say we need a strong personality. What we need, like you rightly noted, are strong institutions. Remember when Dora Akunyili was at NAFDAC, she used the personality to drive the process, reforms in NAFDAC and that particular sector. But when she left, you know, the ball dropped, sort of. The man who succeeded him, I can't even remember his name now.
I can only remember Mojisola.
Everything almost went. So it's good to have stronger institutions. But that's just by the way.
That's, before we go, that's my fear for the NDLA when Buba Marwa leaves. Because he has a military background and the war against.
Look at the verve.
Yes.
Look at, you know, the energy is brought into.
When he leaves, what happens?
Maybe some of those institutions have to do with profiling. Just like you said, military background. Maybe it's needed in that sector. I think we should start looking at things that will work in a particular sector and start looking at individuals who hold, you know,
well, I really do not think it's about the military background. I think it's about the person.
The person.
Yes, we've had people with military background. One of the former DGs of the NYC, I mean, statutorily, they are military. The last person was sacked for inefficiency.
Yes, inefficiency.
Sometimes it doesn't matter. It's about the personality. I agree with the profiling to ensure that this person, you are a change agent, you know, you can drive change and whatever. But let's leave that because of our time. Let's move, go on a break. When we return, myself and Manuel will return to bring you the interview with our guest. Someone will be joining us from the USA. Another person will be joining us live in the studio here, looking at the state of the nation, looking at some of the front runners for the presidential race. We'll be back after this break. Thank you very much for staying with us. It's on to Morning Spring and it's reaching you from Western Spring Television. You can watch us live on Star Times channel 190. That's on the DTT platform. And also check us out on YouTube at Western Spring Television. We have a guest joining us at this point. Now, it's just some 16 days to the election, Emmanuel. Activities hotting up here and there in the midst of all of the crisis, the cash crisis and of course, the fuel crisis. And I asked one of our guests sometimes last week, if I'm not mistaken, is there any time in our recent memory or even before where we've had a crisis build up to a major election like this? I think we've not seen that. But we've joined in the studios this morning by Mr. Oludare Mudashiru, who is the Osun State Coordinator of the Big Tent Independent Campaign Council. It's an organization dedicated to supporting the aspiration of Peter Obi, the candidate of the Labour Party. Thank you so much for joining us on Morning Spring this morning.
Thank you very much, Femi. It's a privilege to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, and so we also have joining us here via Zoom from the United States of America, Dr. Charles Sumari Doti Oludare, who is the convener of the Social Rehabilitation Group P. You call it Group P or Group? Maybe you'll tell us which one is the correct one. Dr. Mari Doti, thank you for joining us.
It's actually Group.
It's Group.
Thank you very much. It's actually Group in German.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Well, so let's get started now. And let me start with Ms. Oludare Mudashiru here in the studio. So it's 16 days to the election. You had an independent campaign for Peter Obi here in Osun State. What are his chances, you know, going into the election 16 days from now?
Well, it's an interesting one for us. And I'm sure for the crop of Nigerian youths having this kind of experience. And I'm so glad that you made an opening remark saying that has it ever been like this? Have we ever come into an election with this kind of experience? And I'm glad to hear your own submission that, I mean, in recent history, it hasn't been on record that we've ever had, I mean, you know, an experience like this going into an election. So for me, it's really showing us that the new Nigeria is here, whether you like it or not. You know, I doubt in our immediate past elections, whether you've had somebody as young as myself leading a campaign council in a state like this. So that, of course, tells us that the new Nigeria is here. So when you look at that, knowing fully well that the engine that is propelling Peter Obi, you know, into the presidency is powered by the Nigerian youth, that then also tells you that the chances of Peter Obi becoming the next president of Nigeria, the chances are, in fact, brighter, and is getting better by the day. Of course, you can also bear me witness that the happenings in town everywhere is almost telling our the so-called major parties, the so-called political gladiators, that it's time for them to have a peaceful retirement.
A peaceful retirement?
Yes.
You're calling for retirement of the major parties?
Of course.
Well, I'm sure that Dr. Mari Dotun will not agree with you. Dr. Mari Dotun, you know, is the convener of the SRG, but is also a fervent supporter of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Let me have your own take on this. You heard Mr. Mudashiru saying now is the time, with all what we've experienced in major parties and perhaps the presidential candidate should retire peacefully from the scene.
Thank you very much. Before I even respond to Mr. Mudashiru, I first want to let him know that we share the same name. I'm also Oludare. That's actually my last name. But where we do differ extremely is in his premise. Actually, the premise of what Mr. Mudashiru is saying is flawed in a lot of ways. And I'm a young man, and I have also tried to listen to Peter Obi speak. But what I have been unable to find is a solution to a problem. Peter Obi is, I think, trying to run to be the complainer-in-chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. There is no substantive issue that Peter Obi has been able to critically analyze and profile a solution. And so I understand that there's a lot of, economic hardship, but it seems to me that Nigerian youth are just giving into despair as opposed to try to, be dogged and try to, understand the problems and solve the understand the problems and find solutions to it. I am a medical doctor. I know the crux of my profession is to make a diagnosis, right? When you identify the problem, then you can find a solution to it. But Peter Obi complains about the problem so much without even identifying the cause of the problem. We have a problem, aside the security, the cash crunch, whatever is going on right now. We have a problem with electricity. The problem with electricity in Nigeria is the fact that we have a system in Nigeria whereby anybody, the federal government dictates where you sell your electricity that you've generated, and then they tell you the price, so everybody pays estimated bill and all. So that is disincentivizing to people who want to invest in electricity, because electricity was never in the government purview. It was developed by the private sector. The Teslas and the Thomas Edisons are no. But Peter Obi felt he needed to go to see some Egyptian mummies to teach him how to put their Egyptian peg in our Nigerian oil. Whereas we have a state in this country, Lagos, where there are parts of it right now that have 24 hours electricity. And that is because of what one man did, a microcosm of what one man was trying to do that eventually fought to achieve 20 years ago. And Tinubu had the reins of Nigeria 20 years ago, we would have 24 hours electricity right now. Our economy will not be where it is right now. Lagos State is the 5th largest economy in the whole of Africa, and it has the smallest land mass in the whole of the country. You see, so the thing is that I don't see anywhere, any aspect, because I understand we are tired of the old political party. Politicians have actually earned the skepticism that people have for them, right? But there is a particular man that has consistently, persistently achieved. It is lack of understanding that is making the youth not see, because essentially when he wins, they are all going to benefit from it, from the economic progress and everything. So that is where myself, and I can go on and on about every single problem, including what is even causing this cash crunch right now. People are suffering, but Peter Obi does not even seem to be sensitive to the suffering of the people. Okay. He's telling them this is little inconvenience.
Dr. Marinoti, your candidate now that you're pushing, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is a core member of the APC, and some even say that he has the ears of the president. If Nigeria is still in the state that it is now because of the current leadership, why has Asiwaju not proffered some of those solutions to the president? Was it because he was keeping the solutions close to his chest because of his presidential ambition, or was it that he didn't have access to the presidency or to the president? Because if he has some of those plans that you're saying now, and Nigerians have been allowed to suffer for this long, do you think that's fair when he could have suggested them to the president?
Actually, I want to believe that Buhari is an 80-year-old man. He's an octogenarian. Buhari was when Buhari was first head of state, Asiwaju was probably just 6 years post his university education. If you add up all the electoral votes, all the votes that Asiwaju has had in his life from 1992 senatorial election to the 1999 and 2003 election, if you add all of them together, it is not up to the votes that Buhari had in his worst election, which was 2007, where he had 6 million votes. You see, so Buhari is a man of his own. Now, yes, Asiwaju supported him, but there's a saying in Yoruba that says "Okoba moju aya, alarino ayeba." You see, yes, Asiwaju introduced Nigeria to. He did not introduce Nigeria to Buhari. He supported Buhari, who was a bigger politician than him. And when Buhari won, Buhari ran on things that he's doing right now. The austerity and all of that, and Nigerians voted for him. Now, it is not in Asiwaju's place to tell Buhari how to run his government. Asiwaju did not even tell Fashola or any one of them how to run their government. They ran their governments themselves. So I don't understand the premise of trying to blame Asiwaju for the fails of another man. Like, let me give you an example. The reason why our naira trades 700 to the dollar is because of the policy of this double exchange rates. This is a policy that Vice President Osinbajo has been railing against since the inception of this administration. So if the Vice President, who has power, cannot change the policy of the president, how come you expect Asiwaju, who is a private citizen, has not held the political office since 2007. How do you expect him to change it? You see, so it is not about, he's not going to, muzzle the president. He does not have the clout to muzzle the president. The president is going to have to rule by his own conviction, and which was what he did. But you can see when the people are suffering, it speaks out. Like for example, there was a situation where some of the people who are trying to deceive people caught a particular speech that Asiwaju made, where he was telling the staff of Vice President Osinbajo to put a question mark on the Buhari's administration's policy attempts to raise the interest rate. That if we further what's the economic situation. What's the economic situation will put people in depression or something like that, or maybe vice versa. And then they cut the part where Asiwaju was saying they should put question mark on raising interest rates. Asiwaju has been right about all the economic policies ever since. The reason why things are expensive in Nigeria is not because of the fact that we have so much money outside. It is because of the fact that we have a wrong policy and we have an import-dependent economy. So that wrong policy has made dollars so expensive. So if you want to import iron ore or metal or everything that you want to do, it is expensive because your country's currency is worthless. Because we have told investors.
Yeah. Okay, so let's bring in Mr.
Mudashiru. Money, but they can't take it out.
Yes.
All right,
okay. So
I was going to ask you. He said something that I'd like you to respond to. Does your candidate not have a grasp of Nigeria's problem? True?
Well, when it's quite an unfortunate situation when you have young men who cannot see. It's quite an unfortunate situation when you have young people who cannot believe in their own capacity. It's quite an unfortunate situation when you have young people who have been sold a very big lie that it can only be the octogenarians that can lead the country. The strength of any economy, the strength of any nation is in its youth. And if you tell me today that we have Nigerian youth who do not have the capacity. If you tell me today that you have Nigerian youth who cannot take their own destiny into their hands, then Femi, you are being challenged. You know, so Oludare in America and Oludare in Nigeria are quite different. I'm here in Nigeria. It's there in the US. So I have experienced this week what it means to have challenges with production. I've had to travel all the way from Osun to Oyo to be able to come back to Osun to do my primary business. So if anybody is telling me that production is based on the experience of someone who ruled a state and hasn't been in government for X number of years and is now trying to come into government, and that he has the solution, then I beg to differ. Now, put that aside.
Isn't that the same situation with you?
Put that aside. Put that aside. My principal, in the last 10 years, has done everything he could to try to understand the problem that we are facing in Nigeria.
I mean, he described him as a complainer in chief.
Oh, no. You know, when you look at his approach, you are looking at fact-based approach. You are looking at statistics backed up approach. A man who can tell you, with my experience, I have been to this country to see, going after problems, going to countries where such problems have been solved. I mean, I want to look at what is happening within the power sector. I'm not trying to bring an American approach to solving problem in Africa. So I want to see the best country in Africa that has solved this problem. And then he moved to Egypt. Let's see what has happened. I mean, you and I can agree easily that when you are looking at civilization, when you are looking at modernization in Africa, Egypt is one of such countries that you cannot just, Egypt is an important country. So if you have a president-to-be going to Egypt to study, that's a man who understands that African problem needs to be solved the African way.
All right. So let's take this short break. When we return, we'll continue with the conversation. All right, so thank you so much for staying with us. You still have with us here the convener of the SRG, Dr. Charles Mani-Dotun Oludare, who's joining us live from the United States of America, and also right here in the studios with us this morning. We have Mr. Oludare Mudashiru, who is the Osun State Coordinator of the Big Tent Independent Campaign Council, campaigning for the Labour Party candidate, Peter Obi. So I knew you just land on your thoughts.
Well, yes, I was just going to challenge him a little bit more. You know, you go to the Asian Tigers, or you go to even a country as great as Israel. When you get to those countries, you find out that the engine room of those economy are their young people. And so if you have a president who is ready to work with the youth, if you have a president who has summarized more than a 60-page manifesto in 7 points, saying that we will secure the country, we will convert or change the country from being a consuming economy to a production economy. And somebody is telling me that someone who can be that precise is a complainer. How best can you tell the problem that we are going through in Nigeria? I mean, he said something about the strength of the Naira, the intrinsic value of the Naira. That this value keeps dropping because the country is consuming and is not producing. So for me, in fact, I want to tell him that from his argument is demarketing his principle.
How?
Yes, because if you are saying that the Naira is dropping in value because we are not producing. And I have a principal who is saying that we will become more of a producing economy. So that means you are also supporting what my principal is saying.
But he's saying that his principal is not the one on the seat now.
No, you see, Femi, let me let him know something.
Okay.
In a democracy, you must understand, and of course we have seen it, the party supremacy. You cannot, divorce yourself. You cannot divorce yourself from a government that you helped to set up. In fact, for me, if there's any reason I'm not supporting, and I cannot support Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is the fact that he helped to bring this same government to power. And that is the truth. So for anybody now trying to whip up the sentiment that, oh no, he's not in government, he hasn't been in government for X number of years, and President Buhari garnered 6 million votes before. I mean, you've heard Asiwaju Bola Ahmed bragged about the fact that they brought this government to power. So if you had the strength, if you had the muscle to bring this same government to power, then you should also have been able to use the strength of your party, the so-called all quote and unquote progressive Congress, which has led Nigerians to where we are today, where the face value of the Naira is even much stronger than the intrinsic value of the Naira. How on earth can you, just because of currency, we are not talking about the monetary policy here, we're not talking about the economic policy here, we're just talking about currency operation. Now, you are using the old to buy the new, and the value of the new notes is higher than the value of the old notes. To get the old notes, do you know how much that goes out there? To get even as we speak, to get the old notes costs 200 naira on 1,000 naira. So explain that to me. And someone is still telling me and still trying to tell Nigerians that the best person to solve the problem is the person that created the problem in the first place. All right. I will never believe that.
So let's bring back Dr. Marion Dotson. I hope you can hear clearly, but I mean, he's saying that there is no way you divorce your candidate from the party. I mean, if the party's been in the saddle for 8 years and it's not been able to fix our problems, we've sunk deeper into bigger problems. So now, how do you expect that we trust that same party again?
Okay, thank you very much. I really didn't hear a lot of what he said, like 99% of what he said, because there's like an audio problem from my end. But once you start speaking, I can hear. But yeah, to answer the question that you just raised, we can talk about, like, let's take some international examples. When you go to the UK, there's the Conservative Party, there's the Labour Party, there's an ideology behind it. When it comes to the United States, there is the Republican Party, there's the Democratic Party, there's an ideology behind it. So if someone can tell me what the APC ideology is and what the PDP ideology is that is responsible for, what is going on in Nigeria right now, then that would be then you can say we want to associate the party's policies with the problems. Do you understand? But the main problem of Nigeria, which is the high exchange rates, which is essentially what has crippled. I'll give you an example. I was a medical doctor, graduated, I'm a medical doctor, I graduated when I was a house officer. I could take my 1 month salary, buy a brand new iPhone, and I'll still have 40,000 naira change. Now, a house officer earning the same salary will have to save 4 months. This is caused by a policy of the Buhari administration that the vice president is against, who is also a member of the party. The vice president has spoken severally against it. But when Peter Obi was asked about that policy when he was interviewed at Lagos Business School, what he said was that Nigerians should wait until we start converting consumption into production, and then we are now earning dollars before we take away that policy. Whereas it is that policy, it is that singular policy that is responsible for the exchange rate that we have right now. We have told investors that if they bring their money into Nigeria, they can't freely take it out. Let me give you an example, and you can go and do the math. If I sent money, $1 million to Nigeria right now that I want to do business, and maybe we had a fight or I didn't get the permits, I want to take my $1 million back. I will take my $1 million by the time it's getting back to the United States, it will be worth $580,000 just for sending money into Nigeria and bringing it back. And that is a Buhari-Kum Emefiele policy that APC is not responsible for. But Peter Obi is in support.
Well, so
he said it.
Are you saying that the APC has no ideology and that it is separate from governance? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, so are you saying that the APC has no ideology and is separate from governance because it is the party who brought the president into power, and the president is also a member of the party? I mean, right there in the U.S. where you are, the parties, the parties prevailed on their representatives.
Have not yet matured to the point whereby there is political ideology behind its parties. That is why you see politicians jumping seats. Peter Obi left what's it called, PDP how many months ago? He was in PDP in '99. Then he wanted to become governor. Then he went to ABGA. Then he was in ABGA for 8 years. Then he wanted to also find a national relevance, and he came back to PDP, was SEC chairman, then was vice presidential candidate in PDP, and now he's in Labour. But we want to divorce him from all that history. Peter Obi ran the same election as Tinubu, but all of a sudden in 2003, all of a sudden he is the candidate of the youth. Peter Obi and Tinubu attended the same Federal Executive Council meeting, but all of a sudden he is the newcomer just because he left the traditional party. That is why I say that it is the depth of the thinking that goes into the choice of some of the youth that what's it called, that support Peter Obi and calling me youth candidate, that I can pause, because if the thinking was so deep, then they will see that there is no difference between these people. Had Peter Obi been given the PDP presidential candidate, he would have been running under the PDP platform right now, and none of the youth supporting him will say, oh, he's this newcomer, whatever. You know, so it's like, and I understand it is the despair. The economic situation is terrible. The economic situation in Nigeria right now was caused by this singular policy that Peter Obi supports. And you can go and watch the video. He was asked specifically, what do you think about this multiple exchange rate? He said that is what you get when you are just a consumption economy, that you need to convert consumption to production. Does he even know that before you can start producing, you need to build infrastructure? Does he even know that when you pour cement on the ground, it takes time for the cement to harden, so that the infrastructure that will take your goods to the market will be able to, to be in place? Does he even know that you need bigger airports to be able to ship things out, that you need bigger seaports? But guess what? There was a man that went to China in 2006 to sign a deal for the Lekki Free Trade Zone that has the deepest seaports in Africa right now. There was a man that did that in 2006. That is thinking. When you think about growth, you have to think about the iteration of growth. There is a pathway to growth. You see, it has to start. When Tinubu mentioned Agbado, and a lot of unthinking Nigerians started making noise. In the state of Iowa, that is maybe about the size of a few states in the north, maybe like 2 states in the north, they made, just from the sale of Agbado, not from the value added in the Agbado, just from the sale of Agbado, they made 4% of Nigeria's GDP. So if our revenue is about 16% of our GDP, that means from the sale of just Agbado in the state of Iowa alone, not the whole of the United States, in the state of Iowa alone, they made about 25% of our revenue, just from the sale of Agbado.
Doctor,
okay. I'm trying to say, the thinking.
All right. So, I mean, Mr. Mudashiru, so you heard,
No, I've had another Agbado.
Okay. So, and he's saying that even in terms of experience, antecedents, and capacity, that his own candidate Tower said, and shoulders above yours. He talked about, he made reference to experience, how some of the things he's done. And he said earlier on that if that man had been president before now, perhaps would have a regular power supply. And some of his supporters have also talked about the fact that he's the modern architect or the modern founder of Lagos, something like that. They talked about his experience as a senator.
Can I pick it one after the other?
Please do.
Please. When you talk about the architect of modern Lagos. I'm not that old, I'm very young, but I can tell you very well that the youngest commissioner to have served in the history of Lagos State government was a man called Rashid Gbadamosi. Rashid Gbadamosi served in the administration of Jakande, and he served as the commissioner for planning. And when you talk about the design of modern Lagos, that administration did a whole lot of job in planning Lagos. Where was Tinubu when Jakande was the governor? This same man that I mentioned earlier rose through the rank and left the federal government as the minister for national planning. So I will never agree with anyone who tells me that Bola Ahmed Tinubu happens to be, what did you call it? We need to put that.
Are you belittling his contribution or his achievement?
No, I am not belittling. I am not belittling his
revenue.
Femi, I am not belittling his achievement. Hold on. I will take you back. I will take you back a little bit into history. Don't forget that Lagos had been the crown colony in this country. Lagos became the center for trades and commerce even during the period of the colonial reign. So for anybody to tell me that a man that ruled between 1999 and 2007, please remove that 1999 to 2007 from the history of Lagos. I mean, it's not rocket science for you to know that when any man stands on the shoulder of giants, is more likely to be seen as a giant. So don't decimate the efforts of all of those people that have done a lot of work to build Lagos.
So
that is one.
Okay.
That is one. Now, back to the issues, because we don't need to shy away from the issues. What are the issues? You are talking about a man who served Lagos State for 8 years as a governor. And we are also talking about a man who served Anambra State for 8 years as a governor. And so we say, on whose shoulder did Peter Obi stood when he served Anambra State? And what did he do with what he got in Anambra State? You will never doubt the capacity of Lagos to have been a revenue generating state even before Tinubu. Please, the trajectory could have also been different. In fact, maybe it would have even been better if we had had other people become the governor. So, who says that the trajectory has to be that? In fact, for me, I still believe that Lagos could do far better than that if we had other people with far greater ideas to have ruled or have taken advantage of the reign of the governor of Lagos State for that same length of years. Now, coming back to the issue, you go back to Anambra before Peter Obi became the governor of Anambra, and let us look at the antecedent of Anambra. How much of a revenue generating state was Anambra? What did he do with what Anambra got? How well did he also secure the future of that state? These are the things we should look at. Look at education. I mean, Anambra was in the worst state when Peter Obi became the governor of Anambra State. And by the time Anambra left, by the time Peter Obi left, the reign as the governor, Anambra became an history-making state with respect to education. And you know that there is no development. Every development around the world, the Asian tigers, even the US, is hinged on the quality of education that the people have. And you cannot take that away, that if we have a president who will prioritize education, then, I mean, sky then is the starting point for us.
So I mean, let's bring in Dr.
These are some of the. No, hold on.
Yeah.
He has see. He mentioned Agbado and in Iowa. For God's sake, what does? I mean, we are looking at serious issues here.
I mean, so that's a major revenue earner.
Hold on. It's a major revenue earner.
Yeah.
But when you talk about the presidential candidate who has spoken more about agricultural production, you know that it is Peter Obi. He has told us how much Niger State has the capacity to produce. So what are they going to be producing there? What are they going to be producing there? So there are a whole lot of produce, value chain addition that we're going to be talking about. I mean, you saw what happened after the Niger rally. People are saying, oh, maybe we need to go and start buying up land in Niger State because it's looking as if the value of the land in Niger State will go up. That is a visionary leader. Even before beginning to doing the work, he is already increasing the value of the state.
Okay, so let's bring on Mudashiru Emmanuel.
All right, Dr.
Oludare,
Mari, yes, the two Oludares in the studio this morning. Dr. Maridoti, you spoke about Iowa and of course Nigeria. Do you think that the difference in the realities, you know, can be better managed by one do you think it can be better managed by one candidate or the other, or do you think we have a general problem? And also, I was going to ask you earlier, if you are divorcing Tinubu from, you know, the government of President Buhari, now placing that burden on Peter Obi, do you think that that's something you can reconcile for us?
So the placing that burden on Peter Obi is because I have analyzed the problem, which is the problem of the multiple exchange rate that has devalued our naira so much that the vice president has railed against, that almost every member of the APC has railed against except Emefiele, and that Peter Obi was asked specifically and that he is in support. So it is not just about merging Peter Obi, it is what he said, it was his policy position. He felt it is appropriate for that policy to be in place. And so when you talk about the reason why I mentioned Iowa is just because I see a lot of Nigerian youth that laugh about Agbado, and what they don't even know is that that is actually one of the short-term investments that can yield a lot of prosperity, because Agbado is an annual crop. So you plant it within a year, you are selling it, you can use it to make ethanol, it's used to make cornflakes, all of that, golden morn. So it is about those are like the short-term routes to prosperity. We have to first go into the farms. We are not just going to start producing computers and microchips in 2 days. It takes a lot of intellectual know-how and technological transfer that is going to take a while. We need to increase the average level of literacy. You know, I really didn't hear anything that he said because of the audio problems that I've been having. But, you know, what I have just primarily had a problem with the supporters of Peter Obi is the inability to substantiate the situations and also to be able to substantiate the points of what they are trying to achieve in terms of like what they want to do. When you ask Peter Obi what they want to do about security, he will tell you. If you put a gun to his head, he will not tell you. You know, that just shows that he doesn't even know the difference between strategy and tactics. You know,
but he has a manifesto out that details out some of these things. Is that not clear enough?
Yes, everybody will be able to have a manifesto, but when you ask him what you want to do specifically about the security, he should be able to, defend it, say something, not wait and try to. That's what I'm trying to say. He's always trying to be nimble with the press, and because he actually knows how to talk so gently, he's probably a very good orator. He can bamboozle a lot of people, so he sells smoke a lot of the times without having substance. It is the substance. I wish I heard what Mr. Oludare was saying, my namesake, so that I could actually respond.
I mean, you also talked about that, all of this claim about Asiwaju being the architect of modern Lagos.
Yes,
it's all rules. Lagos was initially a crown colony.
Yes, Asiwaju stood on the shoulders of people like Lateef Jakande, and the fact that Lagos was already a crown colony, the capital of the country. So you cannot directly say that Asiwaju was the one who was the architect of the modern Lagos, considering the fact that there were plans already in motion laid for the Lagos state.
Yes, but then it's there. But then my friend failed to actually also think about the fact that what was the GDP per capita when Jack Conde was the governor of Lagos? Was the federal government also in Lagos when Jack Conde was in Lagos? Was the federal government also making investment in Lagos when Jack Conde was in Lagos? And Lagos had stopped being the federal capital. Lagos was the seat of government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for like 31 years, but it's also stopped being the seat of government for 32 years now. So, the federal government developed Abuja more than Lagos has been developed. What was the population of Lagos when Jack Conde was ruling? The population of Lagos was essentially about 4 million. Now it's about 20 million. There's an explosion. What was the the degree of what's it called? The ideology. Jack Conde was a good man. He was an Awoist. He followed essentially the principle of Awo. He would tax the rich people in Lekki and use it to put some social stuff for social plans, social safety nets for the people. But Tinubu is a capitalist. Tinubu understands the concept of free market economy, public-private partnership. You can think of it is the thinking, it is the ideological thinking, it is the smartness, it is the wit of Tinubu that differs him from everybody else. Peter Obi that does not even know that a projection is a statistical conclusion. He said it is people just imagining. It is just the intellectual impotence of the man that was that kind of like pulled me away from it, because I was like, it talks so good. I wanted to, be a supporter too. But let's think about, Lagos. I don't know if anybody has been on the Zumba by the way before. That all used to be a landfill. Right now we have Radisson Blue, Civic Center, all of those in that area. Just because someone had the guts. A lot of the old Lekki Expressway and the free trade zone rider that we have right there was because a man decided that he was going to fix a federal government road. He decided he was going to fix a federal government road and fought until they let him do it with Lagos State money. The light rail that is there was envisioned by Jack Conde, but they couldn't fund it. Tinubu will not be president of Nigeria until May 29, 2023. But he had been leading Nigeria since May 29, 1999. Every single of his ideas had been replicated in every other state, including Osun, Ondo, everywhere, north, south. It is the thinking, it is the intellectual capacity. It is having a smart person who understands the limitation of the executive, who is a Democrat, who wants to strengthen the system. That is what is crucial right now. That is why you can see that a lot of the cabal that everybody is talking about are trying to scuttle his chances with this crisis. And you can see that the people are suffering, but Peter Obi is saying it is just a little inconvenience. Demonetization is not a new concept, but the CBN Act of 2007, because I have taken CBN to court, the CBN Act of 2007 does not give the CBN governor the power to devalue the value of our currency. Yes, he can say this currency is no longer a legal tender, but he cannot take away the value. The subsection 23 ended specifically by saying that the face value of the currency shall be redeemed by the bank upon request. So whenever we take our money to the bank shall redeem it. But because the Emefiele and the cabals know that Tinubu is the only one that will not get in bed with them, they are trying to cause all this commotion. And Peter Obi is in the opposition, right? He should be, with the people and trying to paint the government bad for causing all this hardship on the people. So how come he's the one telling the people to just endure this little inconvenience? So that man that stripped himself naked in the banking house is having little inconvenience. That man that could not feed his child is having little inconvenience to Peter Obi.
All right, Dr. Marino, I can see Mr. Ogunashiro itching to respond to some of the things you said.
Yes,
could you just
if I can hear what he's saying, please.
Okay. So,
well, Dr. Mari Doti, as you are, but I like to call you Oludare, so that it will be a conversation between, the people that dares to dare. Oludare are daring people. And so I'm glad that I have, someone like you on the other side. So I'm not in an echo chamber. For me, if you have a man who is striving to unite Nigeria and is telling Nigerians is pacifying Nigerians. Just wait a little longer, just a little bit more. The election is here. Let us make it a ballot-based revolution. I mean, I just told you, I operate my business in Osun, and I had to travel to Oyo to come back to work in Osun. I didn't want to give you the details of what I had to go and do in Oyo that would facilitate my day-to-day operations in Osun. And if I have a principal who understands that the idea at this time, I mean, it's countdown to the election. Why do we have to allow chaos? Why do we have to allow, of course, the pressure is on, the heat is on. Nigerians are feeling it. The culmination of these 8 years of the so-called All Progressives Congress is unbearable. In the history of Nigeria, I mean, growing up in this country, I have never experienced a time like this. I have never. And so, if someone who believes that for us to have a developing nation that we are looking for, it's not for us to cause a state of war. It's not for us to make the people, you know, we can all easily connect with it. That if anything happens now and there is commotion in the country, it might affect the election. And so you can hear my principal saying to the people, please, let us just bear a little longer. Just in a matter of days, we will be seeing the end of this. So for someone who has been in government for 8 years, whose party has been in government for 8 years, and have seen the policies, knows that these policies being implemented is not going to be favorable for Nigerians, and has not been speaking up, has not been influencing that same, administration that he helped to come into power, then I doubt if such a person could be trusted. I doubt if Nigerians should put their hope on such a man again.
All right. Okay. So
and again, hold on. It said something about mental capacity. That's something I really didn't want to even talk about. You're talking about a man who doesn't know the difference between 4 years and 8 years. How on earth do you go to a campaign and then tell Nigerian youth that you will go to university and spend 8 years in the university? Was that a slip of tongue? And he was even swearing on it that no, call me a this if I don't make it happen. Where is that ability for mental coordination? To become the president of Nigeria in this time is not, look at all the plethora. The challenges are humongous.
Well,
so we need people, we need a person who has that mental stamina to deal with these issues. And don't also forget that Peter Obi has always said it, that what I don't know, I would seek help to get it done.
As we hit the home stretch, just 2 questions for you before we get back to Dr. Mary Dotun and end the conversation. You've talked about Peter Obi as a candidate of the youth. He's 61 years of age.
Yes.
Is that the youth age? That's one. 2, a lot is said about the fact that your party lacks structures. You have
just the president,
just a number of people aspiring for senators under 40. I don't know how many number of people you have who are vying for governorship. These are
state houses.
What political watchers have said are critical in winning elections and in getting things done. Wouldn't that be?
Well, I think for me, at this time, what we should be looking at is that when you are coming into a revolution, and don't forget that you only need a man. You need just one man who knows what to do, who is willing to work with people to bring about that revolution. You're talking about the structure. What has that structure done for us? This same structure that we've mentioned over and over and over and over again.
I mean, the question
Hold on, Femi.
is not what the structure has done.
Oh no! You see, you cannot dissociate. You cannot dissociate. You see, there is the functionality of the structure. Of what essence is a structure that is not achieving results?
You know, I mean, talking about political operatives.
Femi, the office of the president and the office of the governor are two separate offices.
Okay, what about the lawmakers in the National
The lawmakers in the National Assembly, at the time that Peter Obi became the governor of Anambra State, how many lawmakers were from ABGA? And at the end of his 8 years in that same state, was he able to provide results? You can go and verify that. Let me, borrowing the words of my principal. Go and verify that. So for me, as a person, I am not willing to allow anyone tell me that, oh, it's about the structure, it's about the governorship candidates, it's about the senators. Yes, I understand, but don't forget that in a democracy, you mentioned it earlier when you were looking at some of the stories making the rounds in the news, where you were talking about the strong institution and the strong person. What do we need in a democracy? In a tripartite system, the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature. So why are we hinging too much on one stretch of it, forgetting that we still have the other two?
All right.
So that is important. Yes. And I believe strongly that because this is a revolution, it is eventually going to trickle down.
Okay, so I'm sure we'll have this conversation again before the election itself. But Dr. Mari Dotty, to get back to you now, it's few days to the election, and the optics, many people have said, it's not good for your party. The crisis, the fuel crisis, the currency crisis, they are blaming it on the APC. And they say for every other day that these crises persist, it's going to affect your fortunes at the polls. Are you worried about that? And do you also agree with some of those who have said, like Erufai, there seems to be some people in the Aso Rock Villa who are working to put spanner in the works or in the wheels of the progress of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu?
Yeah, they're trying to throw a curveball in the progress of a moving train, but Asiwaju is a moving train, it's a battering ram, it's not going to work. That is essentially what is going on. That is why, the people who are what the Yoruba people call Ajeni Dibaje, the people who are benefiting from the ills of this country, know that Asiwaju comes with sanity, and they don't want that. That is why, where have you ever seen that a president is saying that he wants his legacy, he doesn't want his legacy to be that he made the economy good, he wants his legacy to be that he had free and fair election. He is the INEC chairman, So that is what a lot of the cabals are trying to do. But here is what I want Nigerians to focus on. It's like we are taking our eyes off the ball. This election is not about Peter Obi. This election is not about Atiku Abubakar, and it is not about Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It is about you Nigerians. You are the ones that have the problem. So we have the problem of security. Who has the plans, the actionable plans that will fix it? We have the problem of electricity. And I can ask you, where is the safest state in this country? Everybody will tell Lagos. We have the problem of electricity. Who has the plan that will give you, Nigerian citizen, electricity? We can say there are places in Lagos that have 24 hours electricity right now because of what one man did. We need prosperity. We want to make money. So you Nigerians, where is the place that has the better chance for prosperity for you, Nigerians? Lagos is the 5th largest economy in the whole of Africa. It's the smallest landmass of this country. It's the 5th largest economy in the whole of Africa because one man came up with ideas, brought together a team that, changed things dramatically and accelerated growth. So, astronomically, so we have to think about you, Nigerians. Don't think about the candidates. Think about yourself. Think about the problems you are facing. Who can make my life better? It is not about who I like. If I look for who you like, that is your husband or your wife. So think about the problems you have and who has the actionable plans, that has the track record of problem solving. I don't know Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, but from his policies, I know that man knows me. So Think about yourself and who is fighting for you. You are suffering right now. You are suffering right now. The suffering that is blamed on the incumbent party. But the opposition party that should be railing at the incumbent party seems to be telling you to enjoy it because they think it's benefiting them. While one man is busy fighting for you, Nigerians. So that is what you should think about when you want to go to the polls in 16 days. Who is fighting for you when the chips are down? When your money that you have, when you have money in your bank account, but you still have to borrow money to take transport. When you are paying 1,000 naira to withdraw 10,000 naira, who is fighting for you and who is telling you to go and enjoy it? That is what you should think about. Don't give in to the okey-dokes. Don't buy their smoke that they are selling. Who will solve your problem? They are trying to keep you down. But you are smarter Nigerians, and you will not let them.
So I'm sure we'll have this conversation again and again. Thank you so much, Dr. Charles Marinoti Oludare, the convener of the Social Rehabilitation Group, SRG, joining us live on the line from the United States via Zoom. And also with us here, Mr. Oludare Mudashiru. You know, I'm sure we'll have time to come again. He's the state coordinator of the Big Tent Independent Campaign.
Thank you very much, Femi. You know, I would have loved to give my parting shot too. You know, he said, who will solve your problem? But who will solve our problem? Because I'm right here. He's in the US. Let us solve it. If he can come back home and then we can suffer this together, sure then I'll take his word for it. That is what the All Progressives Congress is known for.
So that's the show this morning. Thank you so much. I'll be stepping aside as usual. Emmanuel will return with what's trending. Femi Olanikweko is my name.